Okay, here we go. So, let's turn that way. Tip number 1, send out more stuff. Now, I want to tell you a story on this. A very good friend of mine, Marie, she was a VAT consultant. Now, VAT is the UK equivalent of GST, the world's sexiest subject. And Marie was a ex-KPMG, the big 4 accountancy firms, and she was sending something out once a month. It really wasn't doing a great deal. And I said, you need to be sending stuff out more frequently. And they said, but I don't want to stuff people's inboxes. Seriously? 1 a month? Are they going to feel like you're bombarding them with 1 a month? So, okay, why don't you just change it to every 3 weeks? Put it in the diary, and this is an important thing, put it in the diary every 3 weeks. She started sending stuff out every fortnight, eventually, and funnily enough, she started getting inquiries on her emails. Why do you think that was?
People forgot about time in between.
Because over a period of a month, I can't remember what people sent to me the other day, let alone a month ago.
There's also the repetitive factor.
It's also the repetitive factor. And so the reason I put out send out more stuff is because many people don't send out stuff on a regular enough basis. Now, if you're on my database, and I think pretty much all of you are now, you're not, then you will get something every week, typically on a Tuesday. Okay? Because I know that if I'm in your space on a regular enough basis, that when there's a greater chance of when what I do comes to mind, that I will come to mind along with it. If you're sending stuff out once a month, it's not nearly often enough. Because, like I said, by next week, you've been forgotten about. It doesn't matter who you are. Unless you're Elon Musk, or the Prime Minister, or whatever. Still waiting for the email, Jacinda. Come on, sort yourself out. But this is the cool thing. Less than 1 in 10. In New Zealand, it's even worse. I've given out several hundred business cards since I started this business just over a year ago. How many emailing lists do you think I'm on? Not including the one I prompted you to start sending out.
Online, I know that.
I've given out hundreds of cards. The irony is I don't get one single email on a regular basis from any marketing company. What does that tell you? Heal yourself. Even the marketing companies are crap. They know that email marketing has a huge ROI. They don't do it. Why don't they do it? Well, they're obviously making way too much money with all the stupid fees they charge. But here's the thing. So few small businesses send out nearly enough on email. And in a bit we're going to cover what to send and how to put this together. All right, so your homework from now is to decide a schedule, put that appointment in your diary, and get it done. Whether that's fortnightly, weekly, every 3 weeks, or even every month. I don't recommend every month, but you get to choose. It's your system. But if it's in the diary, you make an appointment with yourself, it increases your chances of getting it done. Preferably at the beginning of the day, because you know what it's like. Once you get into workflow, it becomes a round to it. And we all know they don't happen. Okay? Make sense? Good. So how often should you send something out? I think we just covered that. Number 2, have separate lists. Now I'm going to talk about this for a moment. Current customers, who you're doing business with now, you can just keep in the loop. Okay, we talked about communication. I was really impressed by how quickly you responded to my email. That is so not Kiwi. Hate to break it to you, New Zealanders. Respond. All right? Current customers. Past customers. If they bought from you in the past, unless they're really pissed off with you, there's a strong chance that they could come back and buy again. Circumstances change. People move on. Their lives change. Their businesses change. But that doesn't mean that because of those circumstances, they won't come back and buy again. All you've got to do is stay in their space. And just keep reminding them that you're there. Those who might become customers. Okay, when I go to networking events and somebody gives me a business card, you go on my email list, and I'm going to come on to the legalities of this shortly. Okay? Because nearly everybody I meet at networking events could, in theory, become a customer in some way, shape, or form. I don't, I'm fairly inclusive of all this. Got some people who work at bigger companies on my email list as well, because they do business with people who run smaller businesses. So you just never know. Don't overthink those who might become customers or could be potential referrers. Don't overthink it. If you've got something interesting or useful to say, we're going to come off that, add it to the list. And then anyone else, like I said. Those bigger companies may not unlikely to become customers, but they, because of what they do in their networking, they know people who do run small businesses. Does that make sense? Right. You can stop me if you have any questions or thoughts. Now, before we get to this, I'm going to cover a quick one. What do we send? This is where people often become unstuck because, in my experience, I've got a client who's had a MailChimp account for 4 years. And the reason why I send out her fortnightly emails is because I just don't know what to send. I mean, you've got like 100 blog posts on your website. How are you stuck for something to send? I said, well, no, I just can't get my head into the space. So fair enough, she pays me to send out an email for her on a fortnightly basis based on the content she had on her website. So if you've written blog posts, I know you go through, right, that's instant content. Begin the dancing on this, by the way. Right? If you've written blog posts or articles, send that on an email. If you've been on my email list, you'll see that I send out a quick tip that's useful in its own right. As you read it, it's fairly short, and then there's always a link where you can learn more. And that will take you either to a YouTube video or to a blog post with a YouTube video on my website. How many times have I actually created the content?
Once.
And I'm reusing it for other purposes. I put it out on social media and I put it out on my email. Content repurposing is brilliant. Okay, so there's a few things that I realised this morning, as Andrew will tell you, forgotten 6 lines. Be useful. Write that down.
Do you need a CTA on everyone?
I recommend it. It's a marketing channel after all. And the reason I say be useful is that who's on the Mighty Ape email list? Okay, they send something out every day, sometimes twice, and it's never thanks for being on the list. It's always buy this stuff, right? Now I like Mighty Ape, and because and it's kind of nice to have a local New Zealand business to buy from that's not Amazon.
I unsubscribed for that reason.
Me too, they're driving me mad.
Well, literally, I'm also on the email list for Grab One.
Oh, they're even worse.
And they are even
That
worse.
is terrible.
But why do they do it?
Because
it works.
People buy.
Because it works. So the reason why they send it out is it works. Amazon, the world's largest retailer, sends something out every single day. And these guys analyse statistics like you would not believe. And it works. Right, so if you're in a retail B2C scenario, then that could, and you're selling stuff, then you will want to send something out every day. The interesting thing is, I'm working with a guy who sells all natural cleaning products to the United States market. And we're using an email software called Klaviyo, which hooked into e-commerce websites, and it analyses the buying behaviour of certain customers and sends out offers, relevant, individualised offers in an email to those customers. It's very, very clever. Okay, my client who sells the hampers, we're going to be introducing that to him when his business starts to get to momentum. Okay. Because it's just an automated email thing, but that's business to consumer. It's become very, very clever, and effectively just runs some statistics, who's buying what. Here's this person who's logged into the website, previous customer, have they taken a look at shoes? Well, if they have, they're obviously interested in shoes. Let's send them something about shoes, because if they put a cookie on your computer, they track your behavior if you're a logged in user through the website, and then it sends out an email appropriate to what you've been looking at. And very, very clever. Right? But the technology is there to do. I'm going to come on to some automation, some other little tips that you can do shortly. So, be useful. If you're going to send out regular emails, make sure that you're putting a call to action on every single one of them. If you notice at the bottom of my email, in smallish type, there's if you run a small business in Auckland and you want some help with marketing, we're here to help. Okay, you have my phone number and contact details are really, really close to that. You are legally obliged to put an unsubscribe link on your emails. That is a legal requirement. Ironically, the UK's largest cinema chain, on their emails, don't have an unsubscribe link. They're breaking the law. It took me I had to report them to the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK just to get them to take me off the list. Because I emailed them 3 times.
What's the penalty?
I don't care. They don't send me emails anymore. The ICO will probably send them an email doing this. That's about as good as it gets. Yeah, the
In
information.
a video format?
Sorry?
Or in a video format?
It's
or-
probably a very, very strongly worded email
Oh, okay.
that pretty much is the text version of this. So,
I heard the penalty was 2 dinners with you.
if you're really unlucky, it's free. And if you're really, really hard done by, it's going to be a fortnight's holiday.
Oh,
I have a question from
Of course.
the different lists. I actually asked my clients after I did it for a couple of months of sending every 2 weeks. They're like, no, we talk to you every day. Please leave us alone. So, is there a way to I don't know, how do you do the different lists with the different regularities, or all the different lists get every 2 weeks?
Everyone on your list should get something every 2 weeks, but depending on how you manage your customers, so I send out typically to members of Auckland Business Builders slightly different stuff to the wider list, because I want them to engage that a little bit more. I want them to be that a little more proactive with their marketing. To me, email is a marketing tool, and that's not just marketing to people who aren't already clients, it's marketing to existing customers as well. And never forget that your customers, if they bought from you once, could buy other stuff. That's a whole different story. So, fortnightly anyway. But you choose whether you send out something unique to your customers. That's like, or you could almost call it insider information. I used to, when I have a web design business, I used to send web design insider, what did I call it? The insider list. Get the know-how and the stuff that the gurus don't want you to know. And to be honest, it's stuff that you can find anywhere on the internet. If you knew where to look. Okay, there is no shortage of knowledge. If you're stuck for ideas, just have a look for something on the internet, paraphrase an article that somebody else has written, send it out. Most folks are not going to know. I know that sounds like cheating, but it's what I call swipe and deploy marketing. See a good idea? Put it in your own words, send it out. Okay, it's not illegal. If you copy and paste, that's illegal, breach of copyright. But you can put someone else's work into your own words, and it's then considered your original work. So I used to write blog posts for clients, and I'd find a news article in their industry and have somebody else rewrite it. Pretty much the same stuff, just in different words. That's a unique body of work.
I need to admit that I did that too.
And it's fine, there's nothing wrong with
It
that.
is. There's so much stuff out there, and I don't have bloody time to write it myself. So I said, oh, that's cool, let's just change it to my industry.
And it works. So you get to choose, but your customers will likely get different information. So for example, you guys, and I'll come on to it in a minute, are on a list having registered for this event. You're on a separate list in my email system, okay, which means that only you guys and my clients will get this recording and the slides, not everybody else on my list. Okay, and that will be out before the end of the week. Okay, so my lists are, I think I've probably got 7 or 8 different lists according to what's going on. So I've got a 3-part course that I occasionally promote on my website, and I'll come on to that, and that's a separate list. Because if somebody downloads a 3-part marketing course, they're interested in marketing a potential customer, from my point of view. Makes sense? We'll come on to lead funnels in a minute. So, what to send? Be useful, be conversational, leave out the jargon. The IT industry is renowned for its TLAs. Who knows what a TLA is?
Yes.
It's a 3-letter abbreviation,
Well, yes.
or acronym. That's not strictly true, but it's an abbreviation. Why is abbreviation such a long word? But
But it's actually abbreviated.
it's true.
You
So-
should have seen the original word.
Abbreviation.
And apparently I learned last night that uncopyrightable is the longest word in the English language where 2 letters are not repeated. Just in case you're wondering. If it comes up in a quiz like it did last
No, we
night,
got it. We got it.
Awesome.
And then-
On my mind.
you're welcome.
Oh, what's uncopyrighted?
Uncopyrightable.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's the longest word in the English language where every letter is not repeated.
Whew.
So there we go. Just yeah.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Of
So
course.
obviously, we're obviously a wellbeing organisation providing free and low cost services. So, but actually all free nowadays. And so we're not really selling anything. Do we have to have an unsubscribe option?
You do.
Is it for every
Yes, you
single form of? Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure all the software you use, they always have a default on the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
very
need to
busy.
stuff it up to get rid of it.
MailChimp, you cannot remove it from the likes of MailChimp, or
Yeah.
I use ActiveCampaign, I'll come on to that in a minute. You can't remove it because it is a legal requirement in almost every country to have an unsubscribe link. It doesn't matter what your circumstances or your list. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure. We use Zoho, so I'm just trying to figure out. I don't need.
you won't be able to remove it from Zoho.
I don't actually think they have one though. I'm going to have her. They do. Okay, that's good to know.
I can talk about Zoho.
It might hide it. It might be in the same colour as the
You
background.
won't see it when you're creating it, when you're creating an email. But by default,
Yeah, you
it's
don't
on the
see
bottom
it,
of the
but we
email.
see it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I need to almost see what it looks like as a receipt.
Yeah.
So-
Subscribe yourself to your list.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it because I do that. I check every email that goes out. So it's still occasionally I get things wrong, but yeah, it's always there. You can't not have it. But Zoho's an American company. It's legally obliged to have it in the United States, in the EU, here in New Zealand, Australia.
If you decided to just do, say, I've got the system that's got unsubscribe, but if I decided to just pull out, 10 people and do a personal email to 10 of them, could I just put at the bottom, hit reply, unsubscribe, if you want to unsubscribe? Like that, so they've got that option to reply.
You can. I mean, I think I probably had just as many people hit reply and say take me off the list than I have done people unsubscribe.
Yeah.
So, but here's the cool thing: your mission with email marketing is to have your list growing faster than it's shrinking. In other words, people being added to the list at a higher rate than they are unsubscribing or coming off the list. And it's simply because everyone on your list is another marketing opportunity. You may not see it, but so you just keep them on the list. But again, it's just a case of being useful. People will stay on the list if they see you as useful. If you're just sending out buy my stuff, then of course they get a bit tired of it. Even if it is fortnightly, you're not providing any value, and it's all about providing value. So, Adam provides some really good value and nuggets about mortgages in his emails. So it's readily doable. It's just that thinking, what can I do that's going to help people? Be useful, be conversational, leave out the jargon, make the language easy to understand. Now, language is a big, big deal. If you can't imagine yourself saying it, don't write it. I was taught to write the English language by someone who was born before the Second World War. So she taught me that style of writing, because that's what she knew. Okay. Sadly, when I write stuff, I have to resist the temptation to have perfectly structured grammar, sentences that are appropriately broken apart by commas, and I've always worked on shortening sentences. Short paragraphs, short sentences is all my marketing and all my communication. So if you go to my website, you go to one of the blog posts, you'll see short sentences, no jargon, short paragraphs. It's easy to read. Emails are exactly the same. You want to go for readership, so make it easier on the reader.
If you use speech to text software to create the draft, it aids that point you've just made.
Well, all of my blog posts are now transcribed videos. Have been for 6-7 years now. So one of the easiest ways to create content is just to say it into your phone with a voice recorder and use something like Otter.ai. I use a software called Happy Scribe, which is pretty good. Otter's free. You get a whole what is it? It was a couple of hours for free a month, wasn't it? It was just ludicrous. They give so much away. And so, I mean, I was going to talk a lot, but I couldn't talk for 2 hours. Really? All right, maybe.
I don't know.
It's a lot of rubbish for a start.
I didn't come here to be insulted.
You can dictate into Word as well.
You can now dictate into Word. Your phone will often, a lot of modern phones now will have text, speech to text, and that then creates your content. So you just want to get across a single point. Now, here's the thing that you also need to bear in mind: make one point. Just one. Don't have a list of things because people get confused and they don't read any of them. Just one point. If you're sending out a marketing email, just one point. This applies to all of your marketing. When you go to networking, for example, just one thing. You know, the number of times, and you probably heard it, you'll go to a networking event and there are no accountants in the room. They'll say, oh, we can do audit and we can do tax and we can do bookkeeping, and so we've got someone else in the office who makes coffee. I've been an accountant for 44 years. I've just been on a personality development course, and they just reel off a list of services. And you just think, and? So here's a good tip on all your marketing, not just your email. Pass the so what test. If somebody reads it, would they just go, so what? And this is where I said be useful right up front. Don't necessarily have to be selling something, but be useful. And it is okay to send out salesy emails. It is okay to have at the footer or somewhere near the bottom, come to my event. Okay? It is okay that if you're in this position and you want help with this, we're here to help. That's okay. As long as you're making one good, solid point and you're being useful and you're being helpful. The best thing about it is if you are useful and helpful, your unsubscribe rates will be really low. And that's the best way to have it. You will get people unsubscribe. That's just the nature of the game. But like I said, you want the list growing faster than it shrinking.
It makes me think about real estate agents. They are, I don't know how they do it.
It is a Google.
They must do, right? Because I just
Pipe.
keep on getting bloody added to all this agent that I've never met in my whole life. Get out, hell away. So annoying.
Well, I had a
These
chat.
freaking house emails, and I'm like, I don't care, go away.
Well, I had a chat with two estate agents from. Who's Andrea and Smithworth was it?
Barfoot.
And they're lovely people, but first of all, they sent out their first email a few weeks ago, and it ended up in my spam, which was not a great start. And it was really woolly. But the thing is, I'm not going to be in a position to buy a house in Auckland anytime soon. If I get much older, I'm not going to be able to afford one. So they're actually aiming us at the wrong market. But actually, in many respects, it doesn't matter, because if I'm not that interested, I'll just unsubscribe. But the point is they've made a start. But they're being crowbarred into the branding and narrative and language of a bigger organisation whose idea of marketing is this on the back of a bus.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how creative they are.
Yeah.
Right? The problem is, this on the back of the bus just looks like this on the next bus.
Oh, would you suggest jazz hands instead?
Yeah, big time.
Oh, yeah.
I saw
Don't
someone
get
doing
me.
James Bond the other day. I was like, oh, that's
Oh, I
cute.
want to see that one. Yeah.
All
All right.
right.
Here's
Bring me
the
the
kick.
bonds.
Do you remember who they work for?
I think it was Barfoot, but I'm not sure.
No, see, there you go.
It's-
The photograph stood out, but nothing else did.
Yeah.
That's why you need aggressive jazz hands to the knee.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yep, there you go. Easy. Time to me for
Friends
more
in the room, which is good.
Yeah.
So, just be useful. Be conversational. Send out interesting, useful, potential stuff. You are okay to send out the occasional email. Once a month, I send out a come to my event email. Right? And that's what it's all about. That's the headline, that's the bulk of the content, and almost always put a quick tip in there underneath it. But it's okay, as long as that's not the only thing you do. You don't want to be my TA. Buy my stuff! You'll switch people off really quickly. Okay. All right. Automation. Oh no, let me get onto legals before we get onto the sexy stuff. Right. If you go to a business-to-business networking event and you pick up a business card, you can add them to your email list legally.
You can.
You can. Because it's published information. It's not personal, not private. If they've given it to you on a card, it can't be considered private data. And that's what the Privacy Act is all about, private data. However, if you run an e-commerce website and somebody buys from you from a distance, that's a different kettle of fish, because you have no actual relationship with them. They've given you the information purely for the purpose of transacting that business. Okay? And this is where you have this fine line between consumer and business. Okay? So, in a business-to-consumer setting, you have to have permission, express permission, having ticked a box to send them stuff on an email list. If you've been given a business card, you can add any of them to the email list. Always with the proviso that you have the unsubscribe. You have to have it there anyway. And it's always a good idea when you get the business card is make a note of where you met them if you're planning on putting them on the email list. So if 6 months down the line, they say, where did you get my list? I said, oh, we met at such and such on this particular date and you gave me a business card. So they can't accuse you of stealing their data. Can't accuse you of acquiring it by illicit means. Because you can no longer buy databases. Not legally.
So we send out a newsletter and it goes to just our customers. And on their invoice, we actually say we've added you to our database. If you would not like to, please. Is that okay?
It's not okay.
Okay, well that's fine.
We're happy with that. We're in the grey.
I'm saying double negative means yes.
I actually have the same thing. I have it on my quote, and
it's
no
the
one
nature
has
of
ever said anything.
well, the thing is, it's the nature of the relationship.
Yeah.
Distance selling regulations, buying from a website where you have no actual relationship with them other than to transact to this business and they're going to ship you stuff. They cannot just add you to an email list without your express consent because you've got that one-to-one personal relationship with them. The dynamic slightly changes. The difficulty is with the best will in the world, the legislators cannot tick every blinking box to hit every darn circumstance. They treat business-to-business events quite pragmatically because they know that people are going to hand out business cards, and they also know that because it's on a business card and because it's been freely given away, it cannot be considered personal private data, which is what the Privacy Act is all about. So there's a couple of things. Be sensitive with people's data. Obviously, you are legally obliged to keep it secure, and you are legally obliged, if somebody asks you to remove from the list, to do so, whether B2B or B2C. Now, here's an interesting story. I used to run networking events back in my hometown in Leicester in the UK, and there was this lawyer, this partner of this fairly well-known, if not big, law firm in the company, and he sent me an email saying, can you remove me from your email list? Yeah, no problem. Apologies for inconvenience. Done. I didn't just unsubscribe him, I removed him from the list. So we had no record of it, because that's all we had, his first name and his email address. About 2 months later, I get another email. I asked you to remove you from my list. And if you don't, I'm going to be taking legal action. And I emailed him back and I said, I can assure you, I removed every single data item with any reference to you from the list, so I don't know what's going on. Turns out his secretary was signing him up to go to networking events.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, it wasn't for me. I was thinking, you know. But again, you need to be sensitive, be respectful, but keep people's data secure. Now, here's a quick warning: MailChimp have been hacked a few times. In fact, most big data companies have been hacked. Google have been hacked more times than they will tell anyone. So be aware you're putting your data onto a list which is overseas. The United States approach to data protection is nowhere near as good as it should be. Certainly not nearly as good as it is in the EU, because the big companies dictate what happens, whether we like it or not. So if you're using any of the major systems like Zoho, like ActiveCampaign, like MailChimp, like Constant Contact, all these American companies, the US approach to data protection isn't brilliant, so just be aware. I'm a big fan of email marketing, have been for well over a decade, well, in fact, longer than a decade. I know that it worked. It worked in my web design business. It was a core, in fact, it was the number one marketing activity for my training business, and it worked incredibly well for my marketing business here. So it's not difficult to do, but it does involve regularity, consistent. That's what this is all about, being consistent. If you say you're going to do it every 2 weeks, put it in your damn diary. Make an appointment with yourself at the beginning of the day to get it done. So that, Jim Rohn, recommend Jim Rohn, read his books, listen to his stuff. For things to change, you have to change. Spike Milligan, who's heard of Spike Milligan? Yeah, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Yes.
But plenty of people do. Thank you very much.
Yeah.